Last Thursday night, the President of the United States walked into prime time. News networks cut him out, and he held a stack of declassified intelligence documents about American elections and then ordered the Justice Department to start prosecuting people over them. That is not a press release. That is a president using the most powerful microphone on earth to say the machinery of American voting has been compromised. And here is the thing that almost nobody did in the 24 hours that followed. They reacted to the speech. Very few people read the actual paper. So here's what we're doing tonight, because there is a gap between what the president said those documents prove, what the documents themselves actually say. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly where that gap can open up. And was he right? Keep one number in your pocket while we go. 222 million. It's the biggest claim of the night, and it's the one that tells you the most. If you want receipts instead of reaction, subscribe to Both Sides Politics down below. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. If they said it, we're going to try to show it. They declassified it, we're going to try to read it. Let's start with what was actually announced. In the address, Trump said he had declassified documents in his telling revealed three things at once: vulnerabilities inside American elections, systems, evidence of election fraud, and interference by China. And he didn't stop at disclosure. He directed the Department of Justice to prosecute those he believes were involved. Sit with the scale of that for a second. A sitting president announced in prime time that he has evidence of foreign interference in American elections and simultaneously ordering prosecutions. Whatever your politics, that is one of the most serious things the president can say out loud, which is exactly why the documents matter more than the delivery. So here are some of the specifics. First, and this is the one that I told you to keep in your pocket, Trump said China illegally acquired 220 million US voter files, including names, contact information, and party preferences. 220 million. For context, that number is larger than the entire American voting age population that I'm aware of, and that actually casts ballot and that can actually cast ballot in a presidential year. It is a claim of near total exposure. Second, he appointed the Department of Homeland Security report he called stunning, which he said identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote in federal elections. Then he cited a CIA report alleging the Chinese Communist Party sought to prevent his re-election, and FBI intelligence claiming China attempted to manufacture illegal ballots supporting Joe Biden during the 2020 election, while they accused Russia of doing the same for Trump. Now, if every one of those claims lands exactly as stated, this is one of the biggest election security stories in modern American history, if not ever. It would justify the prosecutions. It would justify the emergency footing. It would arguably justify the entire SAVE Act fight we've been covering on this channel. So let's do the thing that cable channels skipped. Let's check into it more instead of bringing somebody on and mock. Here's where the 220 million starts to look a little weird. According to an early review, the declassified documents largely discuss previously known potential vulnerabilities in the American election system, issues that were already included in a 2021 assessment from the U.S. intelligence community. Not new discoveries, but they were never really presented to the public. Material that, in substantial part, has been on record for years, but was never really told to the public. That distinction is everything. Our election systems have exploitable vulnerabilities, is true, and it has been true. Serious people have said so publicly since at least 2021. And mind you, this was done under a Democratic administration. We just declassified proof of a hidden attack. It's a very different sentence. The first is a security problem. The second is a scandal. The documents by that early review look a lot more like the first. Then there's the China claim. That is the part that should stop you cold, regardless of which team you root for. U.S. intelligence agencies concluded long ago on Democrats and Republicans that China ultimately chose not to interfere in 2020 elections. But did they? That's not a CNN opinion. That was an intelligence community's assessment, but it wasn't the whole thing. Read that again slowly. The president cited declassified material to argue China interfered. The declassified material reportedly contains the finding that China decided not to. Both things can be in the same pile of paper, because both things can be true and be wrong at the same time. Because intelligence files routinely include what adversaries consider doing alongside what they actually did. Assessing capability and intent is the job. But when you stand at a podium to present that pile as proof of an attack, you have created a gap I promised you at the top. And CNN reported something else worth your attention. Officials inside the administration debated this classification push. Not everyone thought that this was a smart move. That's not a partisan attack. That's people within his own circle whose job is protecting sources and methods, worrying out loud what happens when raw intelligence gets converted into a primetime visual aid. Now, let me be scrupulously fair here, because that's the whole point. And because there are real arguments on the other side that deserve to be stated at full strength. 278,000 signatures deserve actual scrutiny. Did they come from the Chinese Communist Party? We don't know. If a DHS analysis identified that many potential ineligible registrations, that is a legitimate finding worth examining. And it is exactly the kind of thing that should be verified, published, and either confirmed or corrected in public. We have covered state level audits before. Texas ran more than 18 million votes through federal citizenship databases and flagged thousands of potential non citizens. A Republican state did this. Ohio and Michigan found smaller numbers, but they found them. Those reviews were real. Those people who insist on non-citizen registration is a total fiction have been wrong about. And previously known is not the same as unimportant. A vulnerability doesn't stop being a vulnerability because someone documented it in a 2020 election. Nobody fixed it. Supporters have genuinely strong response here. If the intelligence community flagged these weaknesses 5 years ago and they still exist, the scandal isn't the declassification, it's the inaction by the government. You don't get to wave away a warning pointing out that you were warned earlier. That argument is good. I'd want it made in every hearings. But that is a different argument than the one the president made. Those holes were flagged years ago and never closed as an indictment of Washington. We just uncovered foreign attack in our elections is an indictment on an enemy and dangerous. The first one is supportable on the record. The second one is based on a review of documents. Could it be a reach? Were those prosecutions ordered on the strength of the second? That's why the paper matters more than the podium. So where does this leave the fight we've been tracking? Because this speech did not happen in a vacuum. It landed in the same stretch where House Republicans welded the SAVE Act on the national security funding and the Budget Committee opened a reconciliation pact. Every senator who blocks that package now gets asked on camera weeks before a midterm why they voted against the bill the president just wrapped in a flag of national defense. But notice what did not happen Thursday night. There was no national emergency declaration for weeks, theory ripping through Washington, people being paranoid, saying things that the president didn't say, obviously. And I told you on my other channel, I guess I should say, at the time it was a theory, not a fact. Was that the declassification was laying evidentiary groundwork for a formal emergency on election security? They said that's what was going to happen. It didn't happen. So here's where I land, and I'm going to give it to you straight rather than tell you what your team wants to hear. Election systems in countries have real vulnerabilities. Nothing is unbreakable. That's documented. Those things are true. And the people who spend a decade calling anyone who said them a conspiracy theorist owe the country an apology. But there are vulnerabilities, is not the same as the election was attacked. China collected data is not the same as China changed votes, but there's a lot of correlations. China interfered, supposedly, is the kind of move that gets a real problem dismissed as a political stunt, which is a tragedy because the underlying security problem is real and still isn't fixed. If you want proof citizenship voting to pass, and a lot of you watching do, then the strongest possible case is the boring one. The audits, the state reviews, the unfixed vulnerabilities from 2021. That's the standard here. Same for everyone. If the evidence proves it, say it loudly. If it doesn't, say that too, even when it's your side holding the folder. So tell me in the comments down below, and I read everyone. Did Thursday night strengthen the case or weaken the case? You tell me. Did these vulnerabilities exist or are they being overblown? And should people be prosecuted for it? Subscribe, make sure you turn on the notifications below because it helps, and it helps to get this in front of every American. And if you want to help keep this channel going, consider donating and buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/bothsidespolitics. Every contribution helps. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the next video.